And finally, new rule as an Ivy League graduate who knows the value of a liberal education, I have one piece of advice for the youth of America. Don't go to college. And if you absolutely have to go, don't go to an elite college, because as recent events have shown, it just makes you stupid.
It's been said that our colleges today educate students into imbecility. And that about sums up Bill Maher's tirade against woke higher education. But is he right? As a professor for more than 20 years, I'm going to give you my reaction to Bill Maher's critique. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's dive right in.
There are few, if any, positives to come out of what happened in Israel, but one of them is opening America's eyes to how higher education has become indoctrination into a stew of bad ideas, among them the simplistic notion that the world is a binary place where everyone is either an oppressor or oppressed. In the case of Israel, oppressors being babies and bubbas. The same students who will tell you that words are violence and silence is violence were very supportive when Hamas terrorists went on a rape and murder rampage worthy of the Vikings. They knew where to point the fingers at the murdered, and then it was off to ethics class.
Let me stop there because I think he made a very important observation. He talked about colleges indoctrinating students with a bunch of bad ideas, but the most prominent being the simplistic notion that the world is ultimately made up of only two groups of people, oppressors and the oppressed. Now, this oppressor-oppressed binary goes back to an academic movement known as the Frankfurt School, which was a group of European academics who eventually came over to the States to escape Hitler, but brought their cultural Marxist ideas to the American university. And it was in the 1960s when those ideas really flourished in the universities across the nation. And at the heart of the Frankfurt School's ideology is this notion of critical theory, which teaches students how to supposedly expose everything in our culture, from our politics to our economics to our entertainment to fashion, you name it, as inherently racist, sexist, and homophobic. That's the key to wokeness. Wokeness, in effect, recasts everything in society as comprised of two groups of people, an oppressor group and an oppressed group. And we know who belongs to which group based on our race, on the color of our skin, or our gender, or our sexual orientation. I saw this firsthand among a number of colleagues who implemented this oppressor-oppressed binary into their classrooms regardless of what they were teaching. So Bill Maher is correct. Students in college, generally speaking, are getting precisely this binary in virtually every subject they're exposed to.
Now, I recognize that a certain amount of foolishness is expected of college kids, but mixing Jägermeister and tomato juice isn't the same as siding with terrorists. 34 student groups at Harvard signed a letter that said the apartheid regime is the only one to blame, proving they don't know what constitutes apartheid. They don't know much of anything, actually. But it doesn't deter them from having an opinion. They've convinced themselves Israel is the most repressive regime in history because they have no knowledge of history, or even a desire to know it. And actual history doesn't come up in their intersectionality of politics and genderqueer identities class. Now, to be fair, at least 5 of the student groups have rescinded what they signed, saying they didn't read the letter closely. And they promised not to make that mistake again after they graduate and start running the world. But I actually believe them that they didn't read the letter closely. I think they scanned it, said it was blaming Israel, and went back to surfing TikTok. Because college life today is a day spa combined with a North Korean re-education camp. It's a daycare center with a meal plan, except the toddlers can fire the adults. The fact that college presidents, who usually love to speak out about anything, couldn't find their voice to condemn the worst attacks since the Holocaust says a lot about who really controls colleges and why, if ignorance is a disease, Harvard Yard is the Wuhan wet market.
That's so good. If ignorance were a disease, then Harvard Yard is the Wuhan wet market. Now, again, what Maher is getting at there is absolutely right. This is a sentiment that's been expressed by other university professors. A professor writing under a pseudonym recently confessed to being terrified of his left-wing students, and the professor is a self-identified liberal. And the reason for this is that students are being indoctrinated in woke activism, but here's the key, without learning the basics of a traditional moral education. Julie Rubin's excellent study, The Making of the Modern University, documents how the influence of the Frankfurt School's cultural Marxism coincided with the university's complete abandonment of moral education in the academic disciplines. Historically, the reason why students read the great books, from Plato to Augustine to Shakespeare to Solzhenitsyn, and studied great art and music and poetry, is because it was through these literary and artistic giants students became acquainted with the eternally true, good, and beautiful. As all of our founding fathers believed, a truly educated person was a virtuous person, and a virtuous person was a self-governing person. This was the founding fathers' vision of a republic of virtue. But we're now learning the hard way that if you don't cultivate a love for the true, the good, and the beautiful in the lives of the students, they can end up loving horrible things. And when you throw wokeness into the mix, which doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman, should we be surprised that students don't know the difference between good and evil? Hey gang, before we do anything else, we do have a very concerning development that's happening with regard to central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Now, you may have noticed up until now, the digital dollar or central bank digital currency has been little more than just a headline. But right now, things are developing at an alarmingly rapid pace. It started with a sweeping executive order from the Biden administration, and now central banks are even hiring for their development. Here's the thing, and you know this, a digital dollar, when all is said and done, means centralized control over your money. It can be used to track your purchases, control what you can buy. It could even seize and freeze your assets like we saw with the Freedom Convoy. That's why it's so critical you protect your money with precious metals like gold and silver. I partnered with the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, that have helped patriots move over $1 billion. That's right, billion with a B, into the timeless value of gold and silver. And now it's your turn. Right now, they're giving you up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. Plus, all qualified callers this week will receive a free Ronald Reagan silver coin. So don't wait. Click on that link below right now and do what countless patriots are doing to make sure bumbling Biden never, ever has control over all your money. Go to the link below to learn how you can get started today.
But the reason why despising Israel became pretty much a requirement of the American left is colleges, elite colleges, the mouth of the river from which this and all manner of radical left, illiberal, yes, illiberal nonsense flows. Supporting all black, that is, segregated dorms, segregated graduation ceremonies and orientation programs, which occur on hundreds of campuses, is illiberal. So is the racism against Asian applicants and chasing speakers off of campus. When the First Amendment watchdog group Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression began ranking colleges based on their commitment to free speech and inquiry, Harvard came in dead last. There's only one set of acceptable opinions on campus, and it's policed hard. The old dorm room bull sessions, it's less risky shooting the shit in Scientology.
Again, Bill Maher is speaking some truth here. The radical left on college campuses has more and more been insisting on actually going back and deliberately segregating the campus along racial lines. But now, according to this oppressor-oppressed binary, in a recent study, 42% of 173 schools surveyed offered racially segregated dorms, 46% offered racially segregated orientation programs, and 72% hosted racially segregated graduation ceremonies. And the organization he referenced, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, FIRE, It maintains a database of a growing trend to deplatform and disinvite conservative academics to university campuses since the year 2000. Disinvitations and deplatformings among conservative academics surged to nearly 200 incidents, and they've been increasingly getting worse. Of the 192 disinvitations since 2000, 114, 50%, have happened since 2009, in just over the last 10 years. When all is said and done, and I've seen it firsthand, our modern day universities have indeed become indoctrinating cesspools of cultural Marxist rot, such that even liberal Democrats like Bill Maher can recognize it. The fact that those on the left are equally disgusted by it suggests a massive backlash made up of the political right, left, and center that will eventually destroy wokeness and restore our universities to places of academic integrity rather than activist insanity. Hey gang, I know what it's like to feel alone out there in these turbulent times, but I broke free. If you too have been looking for a community with like-minded patriots who are serious about resisting globalism, building a parallel economy, and having intelligent and deep fellowship on a regular basis, then you've come to the right place. In my Courageous Patriot Insiders community, we're building a close-knit movement of, by, and for patriots who are breaking free from the outrage and despair cycles of the mainstream media and taking on the fight against globalism. Every week, I deep dive into the content I can't share on big tech and give you the cliff notes on the truth of how patriots just like you are building up their communities, starting patriot businesses, and fighting the woke in both public and private. All with a few history and political lessons from yours truly, of course. If you want to stop feeling alone as a patriot and stand together with this fast-growing community, be sure to click on the link in the description below. Don't wait. Join me and my Patriot Coalition today, and let's get fighting.